Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today was round 6 of Llobregat Open chess tournament, and as you can probably already tell, I'm in a really good mood. Today was a really good game, a really fun one, and I'm super excited to share it with you. So in round 6, I faced international master Antonio Torre Silas Martinez. I hope I pronounced that correctly, and he's rated 2274. So I knew this was, a very important pairing, a very important game, because if I lose this game, then it's going to be sort of like a ping pong tournament where I beat the low rated players or people around my rating, and then lose to higher rated players, and I don't really gain rating from that, right? But yeah, if I win this game, then I will go up in the standings and I'll be facing higher rated opponents, and it's really good. It's always good to win. So this game was really important to not go yo-yo over and over. And yeah, I was excited because, when I was preparing against my opponent, he is playing a lot of different openings. So yeah, I was not really excited about that. But what I was excited about was the fact that my opponent played move e4. So as you guys know, I have been playing the French for, I don't know, over a decade now. I have been playing the French so much, and I had phases of playing other openings, but it's time that we're playing something else. I played c5. The last time that I played the Sicilian, I actually have to check this, but I believe the last time is probably about 10 years ago, something like this. I don't remember the last time that I played the Sicilian in a classical game. And yeah, I mean, it's with reasons, but yeah, I thought it's time to bring it back and to change something up, because I am absolutely sick of the people that are preparing against my French. And yeah, I have seen it all now. So I thought it was time for the Sicilian. But my opponent played a move c3, so yeah, I did not prepare this. It was one of the options that my opponent placed, but I didn't pay too much attention to it because I would go absolutely crazy. And I thought, well, if my opponent plays Alapin, which is not likely the case, but could be, then we'll just play chess. And I remember from super long time ago how to kind of play against Alapin, but it's been so long that during the game I was a bit confused. So I played d5, e takes d5, queen takes d5, d4, knight c6, knight f3. And during the game I started to, when you are not used to playing an opening, you start to see ghosts, and you have to double check to make sure that c4 is not a move, because that takes control of the center. But okay, we know that the d4 pawn is very vulnerable, so you can't just play c4 that easily. But yeah, I have to play, well, I don't have to play, but I played bishop g4, bishop e2, c takes e4, because I want to make sure that c4 does not happen. And after c takes e4, e6, I'm basically playing against this isolated queen's pawn. And I have to just be careful with dealing with knight c3, but my queen can just go to her safe square. Short castles was played, knight f6, knight c3, and here I went back to d7, which is a bit of an odd square because knight e5 is always in the air. But I thought this was the safest square because, yeah, I don't want to play queen d6 because it's in the way of the bishop. I want to put my bishop there, and if I get to c7, that would be great, but I have to disallow knight b5 basically. Also, I want to make sure that d5 does not happen so easily, and I want to control d5 really easily. I know there's some stuff with queen h5, probably not here, but there are some lines with queen h5 that it works, or at least I remember from the Scandinavian, which is, I start to feel Scandinavian vibes over here, but it's obviously a little bit different. So anyway, I went back to d7, bishop e3, bishop d6, we're simply developing our pieces, h3, bishop h5, and here my opponent went for king h1. Now, this looks very confusing, right? Why does my opponent play king h1? The reason is simple. My opponent wants to play d5, most likely. And if you play d5 now, then e takes, knight takes, knight takes, you lose the queen after bishop h2 check. So king h1 is one of those prophylactical moves where you try to avoid this. So after king h1, there's no more bishop h2 check. So now d5 becomes, I wouldn't say a real issue, but it's definitely inconvenient for black, so we don't want to allow this. And that's why I decided to play bishop b8. So I moved the bishop back to b8. I wanted to make sure that it's safe. I could play bishop c7 too, but not really necessary. I didn't want to, allow knight b5 or something with tempo. I kind of like this bishop, so I would like to keep it, and maybe I can play queen c7 and threaten some checkmate on h2, not g3, h2. So yeah, queen b3, short castles, and rook fd1. I was also expecting queen b3, and this way, with my bishop on b8, now the queen is covering the pawn on b7 too, so that felt just right. Queen c7 is what I played because I obviously want to threaten checkmate, so now the threat is bishop takes f3. My opponent plays g3 to cover it, which makes a lot of sense, but by playing g3, I did see some opportunities with this knight on f3. It's attacked once, defended once, so if I attack it one more time somewhere, then I could, you know, it could be really nice for creating threats in this position. So I played knight a5 with the idea that I want to play either queen c6 to attack the knight, or we play knight c4, and with that, the bishop is overloaded. So, I mean, obviously the bishop can't capture it. It can capture the piece, but then bishop takes f3, and I'm winning material because it's a check and the rook is hanging. So that's why white has to be careful here. Queen b5 is what what my opponent played. I played a6 because I would like the queen to leave. I was thinking maybe queen b4 was interesting because I really want to play a6 and maybe b5 to then support knight c4. But yeah, when my opponent played queen b5, I was happy because now I can play a6. I guess queen b4 can be met by knight c6, or yeah, I'm not sure. I was still undecided basically, but I thought this was a bit of an annoying move. Queen b5, I thought, okay, I just play a6 and we'll see what happens. And my opponent went here for queen c5, which is not really what I want. I don't really want to trade queens, or if we trade queens, I want it to be on my own terms. But I'm the one attacking here, at least on the king side somewhat, so I didn't really want to trade queens. So yeah, I obviously cannot really move my queens, so I went for the move knight c4. And I thought this was going to be super exciting because now a lot of things are happening. It's very scary because the pieces are quite vulnerable, especially the knight on c4 is very vulnerable. g4 is in the air, so I could lose a piece, but I calculate everything. And yeah, after g4, which is what my opponent played, obviously knight takes e3 is a threat. So yeah, I was obviously going to play that if my opponent would not move the bishop, let's say. And yeah, the g3 pawn is also weak because of that. So that's why g4 made a lot of sense. Knight takes e3, queen takes c7, bishop takes c7. I guess my opponent also pointed out after the game, maybe I could have played queen takes c5, but I didn't want to allow this pawn structure on the queen side because my opponent can create a pass pawn at some point, and I didn't really believe that my position was good here. The rook is already on an open file on the d file, so yeah, I didn't really like this. So that's why I figured if we're trading, then white can trade. Knight takes e3, and obviously my opponent takes here queen takes c7, because if f takes e3, I enter with queen g3, and I was ready to sacrifice my bishop because queen takes here, king g1, and knight g4, and as far as I can tell, as far as I know, this is going to be checkmate. So yeah, there is some checkmate here, and that's why f takes e3 is not a good move, and the queen takes e7 is the way to go for my opponent. Bishop takes, pawn takes, and bishop g6. I was kind of, you know, I don't want to say tempted, but it did cross my mind to sacrifice the piece for some pawns, but obviously that's too much and I should not be doing that, and I thought, let's just play bishop g6. But it did cross my mind, and I just wanted to make sure that it's really not a good move, or that it's not worth looking at much longer. So yeah, knight h4 is what my opponent played. I was a bit surprised by this because I thought my opponent would play bishop d3 to try to eliminate the pair of bishops and then slowly move the pawns forward in the center. But I guess the bishop on c7 is very strong, so that could be a reason why my opponent didn't play it. And knight h4 makes sense too, because this way you also eliminate the bishop, because my bishop doesn't really have many squares. Now here, I played the move knight e4, and I was really excited about this. But when I play this move, like I made sure that everything works and I calculate everything properly. But when I played this move and I started to calculate again, I realized that my opponent has a really good move here, knight takes g6. And obviously, I see this move. When I was calculating, I see this move because, removing the defender of the piece. But what I calculated was that after knight g3 check, not knight g3, sorry, knight f2 check, king g2, knight takes d1, knight takes f8, knight takes c3, pawn takes, and king takes. I thought I was up a piece here. But as you can see, where is that extra piece? It's not really there. And now I'm just in a worse position because these pawns in the center are really dangerous. Soon a pass pawn will be created, and I have to be concerned here because my pawns on the queen side are also very vulnerable. So yeah, maybe I can still somewhat hold this, but white is definitely the one playing for a win here. Not black. Not at all. Not whatsoever. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I saw the sequence of moves. I was very certain that somehow I'm up material if this happens. So, it's trying to provoke my opponent into making a mistake. The funny thing is that this is not a mistake. It was the best move, and it would have been a much better position for white. But my opponent played move knight takes e4, and I was relieved. I thought, okay, at least that didn't happen. Bishop takes e4, bishop f3, and here f5. I'm super excited to play this. I mean, we love pushing pawns, but also because if I have to trade the bishop like this, I don't really like the pawns moving forward in the center once again. So f5. If we're trading on my terms, right? Well, actually, if I trade here, it's not a good thing. So I want to make sure that if we trade, then I have a pawn e4, and this knight is bad. That's the plan. So my pawn played g takes f5, and here I started thinking. So I had a couple of minutes on my clock, and my time management was much better this game, but obviously I still ended up in time trouble. I still managed to do it, but it happened much later. So around this time it happened. So that's completely fine. And also it's relatively easy to make moves here. So I guess it's kind of difficult to blunder here, at least from my side, because my moves are pretty simple. But okay, g takes f5 is what my opponent played, and here I started hesitating. Do I take with the e-pawn on f5, or do I take bishop takes f3, knight takes, and then take with the rook on f5? So I played bishop takes f3. Now, the reason why I rejected e takes f5, it was really difficult to make this decision because it looks really appealing this way, and this knight on h4 is entirely misplaced. If bishop takes e4, f takes e4, this knight is really bad. I enter most likely on the second rank. And yeah, these pawns on the third rank are very weak. I can maybe start attacking the pawns on the second rank. And if I don't enter on f2, then maybe I can control the c file and then enter on the second rank this way. So I really like this position, but I wasn't entirely sure. And I was getting flashbacks to the game that I played in my previous tournament, where in the last round I faced a GM and he beat me with the passed d pawn. And had I taken that d pawn at some point, I would not have lost to that pawn at least. And it would have maybe been a different outcome that game. But I was getting flashbacks, and I thought this pawn is going to move forward, and this bishop cannot do it alone. And I do have the pieces to defend, but I thought this is a weak pawn too. I'm not sure how to evaluate this. And with not so much time on the clock, I thought, let's not play too risky. Let's just play bishop takes f3. I just went by logic that, okay, with my pawn on e6, the pawns over here, let me just make a few more moves. The pawns here in the center are not doing so much. They're not moving that quickly forward. So I thought I still have some time here. And yeah, it just felt better because of that. But as I look at this position now as well, it is a little bit difficult to make progress with black, because now this knight is on a good square. It covers the king really well, and it can be a good support for the white rooks and the pawns over here in the center. So yeah, in hindsight, I think I should have taken on f5 just because the knight is really poorly placed, but I just couldn't really decide to do that, and then I just went for bishop takes f3. So takes, king g2. I thought my opponent would maybe try to play rook f1 and knight d2, but okay. King g2 was played, rook af8, rook f1, rook 5 f6, because I really want to play the other rook, obviously, but then rook c1 and some back rank tricks, and I was not really in the mood for that, so rook 5 f6, rook c1, rook g6 check, king f2. Obviously, if the king goes to h1, there are ideas with rook g3. First, I move the bishop, or I was even thinking of rook f7, But I want to play rook g3 at some point, and the king is just stuck there in the corner, so it makes no sense for the king to go there. King f2, it makes a lot of sense. Rook g3, attacking the knight. Obviously, if rook takes c7, now I take on f3, so that wins a rook. So instead, king e2 was played, which is a good move. And here I went for bishop d8 because I want to win that pawn. I want to win it. My opponent played rook f2, and I thought, okay, I'm taking it. Yeah, I want to win that pawn because, actually, let me show you the line after h4. I have this check, and either I'm taking the pawn on b2, right? Or rook f2 to try to prevent that from happening. But now rook takes, king takes, and bishop takes h4 check, and this knight is pinned, so the knight cannot capture that piece. So this way I'll be winning a pawn. I'm not sure if this is any good because, as you can see, the rook is ready to enter on the 7th rank. But at least I thought, okay, I'm taking the pawn, should be pretty good. So rook f2 is what my opponent played, and he set up a really crazy idea. I obviously take the pawn, and we're at this point, this is move 31. At this point, we're both very low on time, about a minute or so. And my opponent plays rook c8, and I thought, ooh, that's a crazy move. Because my opponent is basically threatening knight g5. So if I play any random move, let's say b5, knight g5, and as far as I can tell, this is lost. Because rook takes, you may think, oh, this is a check, completely fine. But what do you actually play here? Because there's a rook hanging, there is a bishop hanging, and not just a bishop, rook takes d8 is checkmate. So this is completely losing. So if not rook takes f2, then what? Rook here? Well, knight takes e6. Same problem. Also, the rook is hanging on h3. What am I saying? But yeah, this is also a problem. Lots of problems in the position, basically. But yeah, that's why I cannot just play any move. And I basically have to move the bishop to e7 so that after rook takes f8, I can take with the bishop. Because if king takes, then knight g5 comes with check, and I'm losing the rook again. So yeah, rook c7 was played. Bishop d6, and I'm here looking at my position like, oh gosh, this is not good. This is not looking good because my pawns are disappearing. I cannot really push my pawns on the king side. I was still hopeful, but I thought something looks really wrong here. Bishop g3, rook g2, h5. I have to push my pawns as soon as possible. Rook e7, and here actually, so the reason why I went to this square this way is that if my opponent would play rook g2, that is, if rook f1, I guess it's not super challenging because I was planning to play g5, g4. Yeah, and I thought after knight takes, there's rook h2, and I'm winning the rook because the king cannot defend the rook any longer. So that's why I thought, rook g2 is most likely to be played. And by having the bishop on g3, I basically set up a trick. And my opponent actually fell for it. I did not expect my opponent to fall for it, but it was more like, this bishop is in a really sophisticated way controlling dark squares. Not just the dark squares directly visible to the bishop, but also the dark squares that are a bit further away from the bishop right now. So let's say rook b6, or let's say I played h5. Let's say rook b6. That's what the move that I was obviously thinking about because it's attacking two pawns. So, I need to be concerned about that. And I thought, okay, by having this setup over here, I am making sure that this move is not possible because of the idea that I played in the game. My opponent went for rook e7, which was really surprising to me. I thought, wait, what? Because first of all, I knew that, rook b6 is not good. And if the rook goes to any other dark square, basically, then that's good for me. And at the same time, I was thinking that knight g5 is a really annoying move because I realized during the game I calculated rook h2, so this is fine, I'm not losing material, but then I realized that there's knight takes e6. And yeah, if rook f7, my opponent also pointed out after the game, actually he pointed out there's rook b8 check, but now that I see there's a bishop on h2, that's not the move. So that's actually really funny. I didn't see this either, but okay, obviously during the game we would have seen it. But yeah, rook takes, king takes, and I don't know what to think of this. I don't think this pawn is going anywhere. These two pawns in the center are much more dangerous, and also there's a passed pawn incoming on the queen side. So yeah, really tricky stuff. So anyway, knight g5 I think is just winning, probably, most likely. But my opponent went for the move rook e7, which is a big mistake. Can you find why? I may have dropped a hint here and there, but you probably spotted already by this point. Rook takes f3, sacrificing the rook, and suddenly my opponent is completely lost. King takes f3, bishop d6 check. And the crazy thing about this is actually that by my move h5, by playing this move, I made sure that king g4 is not a move. It was kind of an accidental thing because I didn't really plan this. I didn't expect my opponent to fall for this in the first place. But by playing h5, I removed the g4 square from my opponent, and the king cannot go there. So there's no other way for the king to attack the rook, and now I'm basically winning the rook. So that's why my opponent cannot capture that rook, and if my opponent doesn't capture the rook, I'm basically up a piece. So my opponent plays rook takes e6 to try to create some counterplay here with the pawns in the center, which can still get dangerous. I play bishop h4, and also we're not at the 40 move yet, so I can blunder this easily. Also, there are some threats in the position. I have to be really careful here. I play bishop h4, rook e4, rook takes h4 is the threat, so I have to move the bishop, bishop f6, d5, rook f5, rook e6. Here I played king f7 just to make sure that, I don't blunder this as well. There's so many tricks on the position. King f7, e4, rook ff3, and we already crossed move 40, so I had 50 minutes to take my time and make sure that I'm winning this game because I should not be losing this. King d1, h4, e5, and here I played the tricky rook g3 because if pawn takes here, obviously the rook is hanging, but let's say it takes, I would have taken with the pawn, e takes f6, g2, and I'm basically promoting because white cannot stop the pawn because rook f1, and this is completely winning, so that's why rook d2, bishop g5, rook e2, rook f1 check, rook e1. If my opponent would have gone to c2, rook c1 is checkmate, really beautiful pattern. But rook e1 was played, then rook f2, and here my opponent resigned. So yeah, that's how I won my game. And I'm super happy about this game because it was a very fun game. It had a lot of excitement to it, and it was very tense. Both sides were, having chances here and there. Not very majorly big chances that I would say like, no, it was not like a blunder fest, but we made some mistakes, both of us, and at the end, I think my opponent was, made a mistake in time trouble, which happens, and I managed to benefit from the time trouble. So yeah, it was really nice. It felt even better that I managed to win with a new opening. So great success. I'm really happy about this, and it was really awesome to try this out, and it was really nice to beat Alapin too. I have not played the Alapin in forever. I don't remember the last time I played against Alapin, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for the support, and we have 4 rounds to go in this tournament. Anything can still happen, but for now I am gaining points, gaining rating points, so that makes me very happy, and I'm going to do my best in the next round as well. Wish me luck, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!